Hey, this is Andy Jenkins with the Oily App Podcast. Now, in the previous episode, I took you to the audio where Dr. Jim Bob and we talked through Young Living's Freedom Sleep Kit. Now, here's what Young Living Essential Oils, here's what the creator of the company and the creator of these two kits actually suggested, is that the protocol is that you do Young Living's Freedom Sleep Kit for 30 days and help your body get into a natural rhythm of rest. And then for 30 days, you actually do the Freedom Release Kit. So you rest first, and then after getting your body into a healthy rhythm of sleeping, of resting, of being fully down when it's time to turn off, and be fully alert, fully awake when it's time to face your day. After that, then you start doing the tough work of the soul. And so in this episode, what I want to do is I want to take you through that Freedom Release Kit. Now, if you haven't been with us for the last couple weeks, I would suggest that you go back and you catch episode 81, catch episode 82, and 83. That's where we talk about 81, emotional health is for everyone. 82, sleep and rest is when your body rebuilds, resets, recharges. Episode 83, previous one, we talked about the Freedom Sleep Kit. Now, right here, Freedom Release. Whereas one encourages your body, your mind, your souls to reset, that's the sleep kit. This kit, it enlivens you to move forward in health and in wholeness, letting go of the past, and then walking in your best future. Okay, in a real sense, you'll see that we don't simply get over tough stuff, and that's what I hope you're going to get in this. You don't just simply get over something that happened, but you can get through it in a healthy way. Here's what to listen out for in this episode. Listen for a discussion on the oil blend Freedom. That one's also part of the sleep kit. So Freedom. Listen to a discussion on joy, transformation, divine release. That is an incredible one. And TR Care. Okay, TR Care. These are going to equip you for the journey. Here's the audio from video number 4 of the Freedom class. All right, so in video number 4, we want to talk to you about the Freedom Release Kit. Now, here's the protocol that Gary said to do, is days 1 through 30, you use the Freedom Sleep Kit. Start with sleep. Days 31 through 60, use the Freedom Release Kit. So Move from the sleeping and getting the rest, where you reboot, you recover, and then move to the release.
Work. Yeah, the work side of it.
Well, read that out, because this says who should.
We literally pulled up the
word.
answer because we just thought this was great. This is exactly what it says in the kit of who should use the Freedom Release Kit. It says who should use this product. It says anyone suffering from negative life experiences. That's me. Yeah. People wanting to release frustration, anger, and depression. Also me.
Yep.
And those seeking emotional balance, positive energy flow, and a positive outlook on life. Me. That's everybody, but especially people who've gone through really traumatic emotional events.
Well, maybe let's pause right here and say, hey, emotional health is not just about what's wrong with you. It's about what's right with you, and it's about walking into that to where you can be the best version of you.
It really is, and it's reminding people, and it's why I said in the very first video, and if you missed it because you skipped ahead, go back, but like there's hope in this, and it's not your fault that these things happen. I mean, I think people really create this like, oh my gosh, this is my fault that I'm depressed. It's my fault that I have anxiety. It's my fault. And they create this identity off of like they made a mistake.
Right.
When this stuff is a normal process of trauma. Like this emotional stuff happens. Exactly.
It's just like walking out.
If you've lived longer than an hour, you're going to be emotionally, traumatized. That's pretty much it.
And maybe as we're talking about life stuff, I would say this too, is you can't grade and compare yourself to other people.
Yeah, it's true.
The reality, I'm looking at some of the stuff you guys have been through because I know your story, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know if I would have, I don't think I would have survived that.
Right.
I don't think, but then the converse is true. You can look at some of the stuff that I've walked through and go, well, I don't know that I would have been able to handle that. And it's easy for people that are watching to grade themselves on a scale and go, well, they had it worse, so I shouldn't be feeling like I'm feeling, and I don't deserve to deal with this like this because...
Right.
And realize there's always somebody who had something worse.
Well, and let's just be honest. I mean, two people can go through the exact same event.
Absolutely.
And it can create massive emotional trauma in one person and not in the other. And it's not because one person is doing it wrong. It's just where, maybe the one person's more exhausted. We talked about sleep in the last video. Like maybe one person has, a family history of trauma in that one category. You both walk into a firestorm and it affects them more than you. There's there's just so many different factors. So I totally agree. You can't look at someone else and go, well, why did they not freak out in this scenario? And I'm in counseling for this. What's wrong with me? It's not that. It's again, acknowledging the situation we're in, acknowledging the emotions coming up, and getting a plan, but also just remembering the biggest word in this entire thing, grace.
Yeah, and it's just owning it, because, grace works and covers all of it, but it's hard to cover if you don't label
you gotta take it
what it is.
Right.
All right, so what Gary suggests, again, 30 days on the sleep and then 30 days on the release kit. That's a big nut to crack sometimes financially. I would suggest you order them both at the same time if you can, because they tend to go out of stock. If you can't...
Well, and too, because when you're transitioning from day 1 through 30 into days 31 through 60, the thing you don't want to have happen is you get to day 31 and you're like, and you don't have any of the stuff. Yeah.
So if you can get them one time,
because this is a process.
That's best. If you can't, one month,
sure.
Other one the next month.
Well, and I will say there's one thing about that's really important on the neurological cycle of remodeling nerves. That's why, and Gary Young was a genius. I mean, he literally was a man that was way ahead of his time on just the function of the body, Andy, and how neurology worked. And so when he set this up as a 60-day protocol, modern science and modern psychological research now shows that the amount of time it takes to not start a habit, to not start to create change, but to actually create long-term, they call it real estate change in the brain, is 62 days.
Well, I've got a book on the shelf over there by Dr. Carol.
Exactly that.
Says that.
Exactly. And now here's the danger of starting the process and then not having the product and stopping in the middle. When you start the process and you're working on sleep and you're using the freedom blends and you're using transformation and starting to create change, because those are going to start to activate and bring up memories and start to try to balance it out. Well, you start opening all that stuff up. It's like partially cleaning out your garage, and then by the time you get to day 30, you just stop. You still got a mess.
And then leaving the door open.
And leaving the door open, and everything's blowing back in, and everything's running out. You got toys rolling into the street if you're at our house, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's important to really keep this in the time period that they're really working.
So, best case scenario, order it all at the same shot. And,
I would.
Well, and think about it like this too. Before, we haven't even gotten into the oils.
Yeah.
If your car was broken down and you couldn't afford it, you'd figure it out.
Right.
If your house, you had an issue with the air conditioner or the fireplace or the washing machine, you would financially figure out what you need to do. How
these
much
kits
more
are
valuable
vital.
is
these kits are vital.
soul.
Well, they're life-changing and life-saving.
Right.
Yeah.
So figure it out. So let's rock through it. So number one, the Freedom Oil, the bottom of the foot. You did that with the sleep kit. So we can move on to the next one. Number two is one of my favorite oils, which is Joy. 2 drops on the chest over the heart.
Right.
So right there, talk about Joy.
Joy oil is a blend really to bring in the feelings of joy, but in this context, like one of the things that we talk about with Joy oil blend that is vital is helping people move through dealing with grief. And like think about in any kind of emotional traumatic situation, you literally are grieving what you thought was good and normal.
Right.
Like in the breakup of a family, you're grieving what it was. And coming home from war with veterans, they're grieving what happened, grieving who they used to be.
Yeah.
Like they now can almost no longer walk into a public space and not feel some sort of trepidation.
Right.
Like so you have to go through a period of grieving to be able to step in the next step. So Joy helps to be able to do that and bring this peace and calming to the situation into our emotional centers.
Well, King Solomon, he said something like this, and I'm not saying you'll necessarily be there yet immediately, but he said laughter is good medicine.
Oh, yeah.
And so like there's this joy that necessitates and it brings strength.
That's why it says the joy of the Lord is our strength, too.
Nehemiah said that to people who are being emotionally traumatized while they're trying to rebuild their house. And
they're being bullied.
They're being taunted.
Yes.
He says joy is a strength.
Exactly.
And David actually said this. He talks about anointing himself with an oil of gladness whereby he had made himself glad. So it was acknowledging the tough stuff, but then taking control and doing what you can do intentionally.
It's intentionally choosing and using things like the oils to be able to allow yourself to feel happy.
Doesn't mean it's instant.
Right.
But it is
And it doesn't mean that everything's fine. Right. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that the situation is now normal and there's no more things going on. When we lost our son in 2014, all the work that we've done past doesn't mean that even on when we're doing really good on this, doesn't mean that didn't happen.
Right.
It doesn't go back. It just means that we are improving and healing and moving in the direction of being able to love on people and be who God's called us to be.
Well, I think you said a good thing about that example, maybe that helps people as they're trying to walk in joy, because people would look at you and say, well, Jim Bob's happy, joyful guy.
Oh, he's fine.
You don't get over some of those things.
That's very true.
You do
we've talked about this.
To move through those things.
Yeah, it's the difference in, and it's very, man, we could do a whole other video, and maybe we will, on the words you say to people and how you say it. And they're like, hey, slap you on the back. Hey, how's it going getting over that?
Yeah.
And you really just like recoil because you're like, man, I hope I never get over my son.
Yeah.
Or I hope I never get over. But you can get through it and get to the other side, and the Lord take you through a period of learning and growing you and using it in your life. It says in Scripture that He'll turn all things for good for those that love and follow Him. Well, you got to go through that in order to understand. I mean, you can't talk to a veteran.
Even if you don't know how that's going to come for good.
Well, even though you won't know how it's going to come for good. Yeah, it's you can get through it, but getting over it, that's not necessarily going to happen, and that's okay. And it's just acknowledging that.
So freedom on the feet, joy on the heart. The third one we do is transformation. Transformation is going on the wrist, on the pulse points there of the wrist.
Right.
Talk about transformation.
So transformation is, Gary named these oils for different uses because he knew what you were going to actively start using them for. And so the great thing about transformation is we've had sleep. We're building up the reservoir of energy and healing, right? We've got freedom blend that we've started to create harmony on those feelings. We've got joy that's starting to build up that reservoir of peace and calming. Well, now we're getting to work. Now we're getting to work on those emotional pathways and those feelings and those hurts and stuff. Transformation is able to bring those up and release the ones that are really hidden way down deep. And it's like digging up treasure or digging up,
trash.
Trash. Like digging up a leak in the water main out in your yard. It gets down under there to find the problem so that then the body can start to handle it and heal it and fix that spot.
Okay, so then the next one, we're going to use divine release. We're going to do 1 to 3 drops. Most likely in your temples, right? You don't get it in your eye.
Right.
Essential oils, never in the eye.
Right.
But 1 to 3 drops there on the temple of divine release.
Okay, so we talked about this a while ago, and I'm real big on examples, real life examples. If you're looking at transformation and divine release, it's really like liquid Drano and flushing the toilet, right? So liquid Drano really breaks up the stuff on the pipes.
That's the transformation.
Exactly. Okay. Transformation breaks it up, it loosens it up. Exactly. But if you just break it all up, you get it all loose, but you don't move it out, it's just going to readhere. It's just going to go back to the way it was, right?
So divine release.
Exactly. Divine release is able to work in with those emotions and the negative pathways and to be able to move them out, literally help them move through your nervous system and through that limbic system so that it can create space for new healthy emotions.
If this is an emotional thing, sometimes you got to let it go. If it was something that happened harmful to you, sometimes that means you've got to forgive.
Right.
This one, divine release, reminds me of that statement. I think Ben Franklin might have made it that said to err is human.
Yes.
To forgive is divine. And on some point, forgiveness doesn't mean that what happened was right. It doesn't mean that you're saying it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
It just means you're letting control of that go to where it's not
forgiving
controlling
yourself.
you. You're letting it
forgiving
go.
the situation. All of it.
The person, the whatever. So
whatever it was.
Release.
Exactly.
Flush the toilet. Let it
exactly.
go.
Exactly.
Right.
Flush those emotions.
So next tool, after you put, again, freedom on the foot, joy on the heart, transformation on the wrist, divine release on the temples, the fifth oil, TR care. And this is just written down on the card that comes in your kit. So just doing what it says. TR care, 1 to 3 drops on the edge of the ear.
Okay. The edge of the ear, there's so many, it's called auriculotherapy. There's different auricular points, like acupuncture, that relate to different emotions or relate to different parts of the body. There's so many things with that map-wise, but TR Care is the blend to help start to repair those areas and repair the emotions and repair those pathways that we've been cleaning up to bring in new, fresh, healthy emotions.
And here's what's shocking. If you look in the Old Testament, when they anointed priests and lepers, so if you're going to be at the religious height, or a leper would be at the lowest you could go spiritually at that point, they're going to be restored to the faith community. They would anoint them on the feet, they would anoint them on the hands, and they would anoint them on the ear. And so there's something to that even you see ancient stuff, even if we
Yeah,
didn't
they
know
talked about the
how,
generational
why.
connection on moms and dads, like mothers and fathers, and how it related to those people in the situation, and the relational point to that or to addiction. There's so many different things with the ears.
Just rewriting the whole story there. So what else do we want to say with all of this? How do we?
Well, I just think it's important to be intentional. It's important to be full with it, but just be complete with it. That's what I want to say is like, do the whole system, use the whole kit, go through the whole thing. Don't cut corners, and you're going to have days when you feel amazing. It doesn't mean the pathway is rewritten yet. You know,
Right.
like there's days like after a car wreck, you feel amazing. It doesn't mean all the tissue is healed right. There's days, after breaking my femur that I feel amazing, but it's still healing and I still have scar tissue and I've still got to do work. So stay the course, stay intentional, keep using the products, do it for the full 60 days. And then if you want to do a break for a little bit, do that, but then do it over again to really give the body time to really heal. We just got to be, I think intentionality and patience is like two of the biggest words in this whole process.
All right, so in the next video, we're going to come back because I think one thing we did was we started off talking about emotional stuff.
Right.
Number two, we started talking about sleep type of stuff. Then we talked about the sleep kit. We talked about the release kit. I think what we want to do is not leave people with just the oils because we don't just teach.
Let's talk about some real life
all about
tips.
life. And so we're going to come back in video number 5, and we're actually going to give you some tips. That's kind of going to be a controlled ramble about some other things that we think will completely help you to put your best foot forward and
Absolutely.
walk into the light.